What's a well-known survival tip that's actually untrue? Story 1. It's not exactly a survival tip, but everybody imagines building traps, hunting, building a shelter, etc. But the reality for most survival situations is to just focus on water and sitting around until you get found. Nearly everything you do will burn the small amount of energy water you have, and you likely will not have the skills or be in an abundant enough area to replace it, so it's best for most people to just sit in the shade and wait. Answer: the rule of threes. You can survive only 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter, if you're in a harsh environment of cold, heat, or cool precipitation, 3 days without water, 3 weeks or much more without food. So, assuming you have air to breathe, your one priority is to assess whether or not you need shelter from the elements, and if so, to find, preferably, or otherwise to build some sort of shelter. Once you're out of the elements, it's time to think about obtaining water. Story 2. A lot of people think that moss only grows on the north side of trees. It'll actually grow wherever it wants to. Story 3. Not survival tips for the wilderness, but survival in urban surroundings. Basically, any tips on how to handle a street fight. Any of the vigilante rubbish you see on TV. I have a close friend who was a UK Royal Marine. He was in effect a violence professional for a decade or so. He told me that the vast majority of his training regards hand-to-hand combat involved the following. Assume your opponent is armed even if you can't see a weapon. Run away as fast as you can. If they are close enough to touch you, push them as hard as you can. Hopefully they'll fall over. Then run as fast as you can in the opposite direction. That was it. Just get away from them as fast as you can. Don't try and engage in a fight with someone you don't know because you'll probably get eliminated. Answer: anybody who really wants to see how a hand-to-hand knife fight goes down needs to watch the Ukraine knife fight video. It's not pretty. There's no flashy moves and there's not really a finishing blow. You and the other guy are going to beat the piss out of each other until you're both exhausted, your fingers are bitten off, and you've been stabbed 17 times. Story 4. This is less a bad tip and more of a glaring omission, but I haven't seen a lot of wilderness survival guides say the obvious first step: call 911. But it's wilderness survival. The phone won't work. People have internalized that idea, especially millennials and older. Coverage is surprisingly common in the backwoods these days. That's doubly true when you're calling 911. Phones get some extra mojo when they're making emergency calls. They can use other networks they usually can't. Even if it looks like you don't have reception, a 911 call might go through. Point being, when you have that, "oh shoot, I'm lost," moment, give the cell phone a shot before you start dragging branches together for a lean-to. It's not a guarantee, but it might save you a whole lot of pain. Answer: that's doubly true when you're calling 911. Phones get some extra mojo when they're making emergency calls. They can use other networks they usually can't. Even if it looks like you don't have reception, a 911 call might go through. Yes. So important to actually try to call and not just see no reception and assume you can't call. Most countries have multiple networks, and your phone will normally only have one, while a 911-112-119 call will try to connect to any network. Story 5. The big one. Just because the water is flowing doesn't mean it's safe to drink. Most of the shoot you see in bushcraft videos is a waste of energy, and much of it could get you eliminated. Stay where you are. Exert yourself as little as possible, and only do so to find shelter from the elements or to get water. Your chances of being rescued increase significantly if you stay put. The real myth, though, is that survival is easy and anyone can do it. You're better off just making sure you don't end up in a situation where you need to survive. Plan. Let people know where you're going and for how long. And for the love of whatever you believe in, stick to the plan. Story 6. The idea of changing your cell phone voicemail message if you're lost in the woods. If you have enough signal to change your voicemail, then you have enough signal to call for help. Story 7. Running in zigzags from an alligator. While they are surprisingly fast sprinters, running in zigzags is more likely to get you eaten than just running away in a straight line. That being said, gators rarely try to chase a human other than to defend its nest. Story 8. The idea that you should never move someone if you suspect a spinal injury is overstated. Now they teach that it's okay to, gently, move someone if you can make them more comfortable or safer, especially if it will be a while before rescue. IDE. It's now thought that the initial trauma was enough to cause that damage, or it wasn't, and gently moving them won't leave them worse off. Answer. I'm a former EMT, and that's not just a survival tip. It's something we were taught in class and believed for decades. Research has come out that shows that immobilization can actually be more harmful. It's a good idea to not let them just walk around immediately, but that's mostly because people can be unsteady from a knock to the head or not feeling other injuries due to adrenaline. They don't have to stay completely still, but it's just good practice to have a hurt person chill for a little unless they're in immediate danger. Story 9. Not your typical survival advice, but an important falsehood. You have to wait 24 hours to report someone missing. Absolutely untrue. And the longer the wait, the worse the outcome for the person missing. If you believe someone is missing, report it immediately with all information you have. Eat snow for water. Waste of energy. There isn't a lot of water in snow by volume, unless packed. But moreover, your body will expend energy in the form of heat to melt the snow. Build a fire, find something you can use as a basin, melt the snow, then drink. Answer. I've been binging The Rookie. I know it's trash, that's why I use it as background noise, and they had this in an episode. The chief's daughter goes missing in New York. They contact the local police, like 12 hours after she was last seen, and the NY cop says, "You know what I'm gonna say?" And the chief says, "Yeah, you're supposed to wait 24 hours before reporting someone missing." I was so mad. It's not enough that these shows are grotesque propaganda, spreading false information about fentanyl and law, but to say something like that, which could have real-world consequences, I was so pissed off. Story 10. First day in prison. Punching the biggest and toughest-looking prisoner in the face will not make your stay easier. Answer. Walk tall, eyes up, and only straight ahead. Stay quiet, listen a lot. Way more than you talk. Observe, observe. Observe the laws that keeps you safe with the guards, and really, really observe the law of the jungle that runs 247, 365, that is the fellow inmates. Understand, none of these people want to be there, and most of them, I dislike to say, do deserve to be there. So they are not your friends. That means do not take anything, and I mean anything, from them, or give anything to them. After that read, work out, reflect on why you're there, and if you have someone on the outside, write to them. Or call when you can, it keeps you from getting instatualized. Story 11. Do not ever drink your own pee to survive. It'll make you more dehydrated while also likely fudge up your kidneys. No benefit to be had, just don't do it. Answer. Kidney doctor here. This is usually true, particularly in the stuck in the desert type of situation. When your urine is more concentrated than your blood, which happens when your body is trying to conserve water, drinking it will not help things. But when you are well hydrated or even overhydrated, it is less concentrated than your blood and would have a hydrating effect. Theirs isn't a great way to make that determination, aside from the extremes. Not peeing much, and it's very dark, it's quite concentrated. Peeing a ton, and it's clear, it's dilute. Still, in general, don't drink your own urine. Story 12. That you can get water by cutting open a cactus and drinking the liquid inside. Unless you are a botanist who can identify the 1 or 2 specific types of cactus that are safe, you're going to have a bad time. The fluid in most cacti is full of acids and alkaloids that will make you violently ill. You'll end up vomiting, which will make you lose way more water than you gained and speed up the dehydration process. Story 13. For snakes, red touches black, you're okay, Jack. Red touches yellow, you're a dead fellow. While this is true for some specific species in North America, it's not true for many venomous snakes with similar coloring. So just don't grab strange snakes, please. Answer: was looking for snakes because of the whole suck out the poison idiocy. For anyone curious, if you manage to suck out any of the venom from a snake bite, it'll be in your mouth, which absorbs things into your body faster. You also won't be able to remove enough to be beneficial to the person bitten, which means the best, most successful effort you have, you dying faster than the person who was bitten. Story 14. Don't get under an overpass during a tornado. If you're in a vehicle and can't go inside something like a gas station or rest stop, you're better off in a ditch and cover your head. But overpasses bridges are not a good place to be during a tornado. Answer: the tornado overpass myth was amplified 1000x by the fact that in the 1990s, a TV crew was rolling video during a tornado and took shelter there. The cameraman or reporter yells to other motorists, "Get up under the girders!" And it was shown everywhere afterwards. Other stations picked it up. It wound up in severe weather videotapes at the time. You practically couldn't escape it. So it's become seared in a lot of people from that era's memories, and the NWS has had a lot of trouble undoing it. The clip I linked was from a compilation video, and even the narrator there tried to tell folks it only worked here because the tornado was very weak. But that wasn't the message most folks took away from it. It's rather similar to how folks from the 50s, 60s had to be dissuaded from opening their house windows during a tornado. An old belief was that doing so equalized the pressure so the house wouldn't explode. That was very, very, very wrong. Story 15. Not survival in the usual sense, but those hold on put that you're an organ donor on your license, because then if you get in a wreck and die, the paramedics won't try to bring you back. I've been a paramedic for 10 years, and never once have I looked for someone's license after a traumatic cardiac arrest to check their organ donor status. If a cardiac arrest victim seems viable, they're going to get worked on regardless. The reality, though, is that very few people come back from cardiac arrest that occurred due to trauma, because the most common cause is blood loss, and that's not something paramedics can fix in the field in most areas. Some very progressive systems do carry whole blood on the ambulance. And if someone is dead on arrival and unworkable, we don't haul them to the hospital to get their organs harvested. The body stays on scene until coroners get there and do their thing, which could take hours. Organs of people who die outside of hospitals generally have a very limited window in which they're still considered viable, so it rarely even enters the equation unless they're transported to the hospital. Rant over, be an organ donor. Story 16. When hiking and it's hot out, do not, I repeat, do not attempt to ration your water. Drink whenever your lips or your eyes get dry or you're generally thirsty. Rationing like you'd see in old movies or something hastens heat exhaustion. Answer: additionally, in a situation like this, you need to make sure you drink enough when rehydrating. You really want to drink at least 250 milliliters 1 cup. Smaller quantities will just moisten your mouth and esophagus. Too little will reach your stomach to have any effect once absorbed into your system. You're probably better off drinking 600 milliliter servings at hourly intervals than 200 milliliter servings every 20 minutes. Story 17. Having intimacy to fend off freezing to passing is a terrible idea. It will make you wet, sweat sexy fluids, and use up energy you need to conserve. It's not survival advice, it's a plot device. Story 18. If you think you're going to be robbed at the bank, then put your PIN into the ATM backward and it'll send some sort of emergency signal. This isn't true. Plus, some people may have PINs that are the same forwards and backwards in the first place. Story 19. If you're alone, that is better than being with another person, since it's another mouth to feed. The buddy system is always more rewarding than the costs, especially since they could go for help or do other things. Twice the output, twice the chance of survival, since you're not likely to get any food while you're out there if you're a 21st century layman like me who doesn't have a gun with them on every outing. Story 20. Am not sure how the myth started, but do not sleep naked in a sleeping bag. Unless you want to, I guess. But it will not keep you warmer by reflecting the heat or anything like that. Clothing is another important layer of insulation. Answer. You should if your clothes are wet damp. Growing up, some kids were at a mountain winter camp and died that way. They had snuck out after everyone had gone to sleep to play in the snow. Afterwards, in their snow-soaked clothing, they slipped back into their sleeping bags and never woke up, died of hypothermia. TLDR, please take wet or damp clothes off before using a sleeping bag. Sleeping bags are insulators. They trap in body heat, but they can't do that effectively if you are wearing wet cold garments. Story 21. If it's black, fight back. If it's brown, lie down. With bears. How you act depends on how the bear's acting, not what species it is. Answer. Generally, if a black bear attacks you, attack back, and if a grizzly attacks, then good luck. But if you see a black bear, just calmly back away and make sure you aren't between the bear and cubs or its exit route. Then keep slowly backing away and stay calm, and most likely it will just walk off. If you're with other adults band together and pick up any children, it may keep getting closer, but if it starts acting aggressive, use your clothing to look bigger. Be loud and wave your arms and hope it chooses to move on. But if that fails and it attacks, I've always been told to stick with anyone you're with and fight back. Story 22. If you crash your car into a river or lake, let it sink and the pressure equalize before you try and get out. Answer. I don't know. I saw a video talking about how this is a very bad idea and almost everyone will die if they sink in a car. The very best advice is to get your door or window open as fast as possible. If the water goes high enough to make your door not able to open, you're probably going to die. Edit. Also, the main thing was getting out of the car before it sinks, not opening the door and waiting or something. Open it ASAP and get out quickly. Story 23. Do not burn yourself to stop the bleeding if wounded. As a medical professional once said, you'll just be bleeding and burned. Answer. Cauterization is a valid option when modern medical care is not going to be available in a timely manner. 99% of the time, the correct answer is apply a bandage with pressure if needed and get them to a hospital. If it's an extremity, and either it's a particularly severe wound or applying a bandage and pressure has failed, you can also go with a tourniquet. However, if you are days away from proper medical attention or it's not coming at all, cauterizing is better than bleeding out. It may save you. It may just add some suffering to your passing. But that is better than certain. Passing. Story 24. When freezing to passing, finding a tauntaun to crawl inside for warmth is actually a lot harder than I was led to believe. Story 25. A lot of people think that when you go camping, where bears are, you should hang your food supplies up in a tree to keep bears from being able to get them. This is wrong, because your body is bear food and it's in your tent on the ground. What you really need to do is put your food in your car, put your body in your car, and drive home to sleep where bears are not. Story 26. Do not get in a doorway during an earthquake. Get under a sturdy table or get down next to something sturdy. Rescuers often find still alive people in what's called the triangle of life. Debris will fall onto the sturdy object and create a triangle-shaped safe zone next to it. Edit. This has apparently changed since I took CERT training. The common advice is to drop cover and hold on. Thank you to those who commented. The doorway thing was only true way back in the day for adobe and brick construction. Story 27. If you are extremely cold or near hypothermic, do not drink adult beverage to warm up. It may make you feel warmer because it pulls your blood to your skin, but that means it's pulling blood away from your vital organs and therefore lowering your core temperature. Story 28. If you have a nosebleed, tilt your head back. You should really lean forward while pinching the soft part of your nose closed so all the blood doesn't run down the back of your throat into your stomach and make you vomit. If you have blood in your mouth from this already, spit it out or let it run out. People love to argue about this, and I'll never understand why. Story 29. People think survival and think about hunting, building a 3-story mansion, creating water filters, and woodworking. Most actual survival situations is basically getting some snacks, water, and signaling until you are found. Pretty much the most important part is to just stay put when you realize you're lost. Wandering around will make things so much worse. Story 30. Growing up, I feel like I heard stop, drop, and roll everywhere. Not one viral video or movie have I ever seen anyone do this when on fire. I'm starting to think I was lied to. Maybe other people can prevent forest fires too. Answer. Stop, drop, and roll is real. It's not guaranteed to put the fire out, but it may help smother it. Better than running around fanning it at any rate. According to firefighters I know, the best thing it definitely does is allow people to get to you to help smother it instead of trying to chase down a running, inflamed person. And being prone may help keep the fire from getting up into your face or inhaled. Story 31. Peeing on a jellyfish sting will just activate your kink and give the injured person an infection. It isn't helpful. Story 32. There's a long-standing perception that if you're running out of water in the wilderness, you might have to drink your own pee. From what I understand, that doesn't actually help. You're pretty much just putting the things your body got rid of back into your body so it has to get rid of them again and uses up more water than it's worth. Story 33. Let's say, or stranded in the desert with only a water bottle. PL think to take sips every while to preserve it throughout your time there. But it's actually better to just drink it all at once. Story 34. That you should suck the venom out of a snake bite. This is probably the most dangerous myth out there because it's in so many old movies. You're just cutting into someone and putting mouth bacteria into a deep wound. You also can't create enough suction to pull out a meaningful amount of venom, and you risk poisoning yourself if you have any small cuts in your mouth. The correct thing to do is keep the victim calm and as still as possible. Keep the bite below the heart and get them to a hospital immediately. Story 35. Putting a wooden spoon or your fingers in the mouth of someone having a seizure. Either you're going to have a person seizing and choking, or a person seizing and choking on your fingers while you're in agony. Just call 911 and turn them into their side. Story 36. On your first day in prison jail, find the biggest, meanest looking guy and punch him in the face to gain respect cred. Chances are he'll see you coming and deck you before you raise a fist. And if you hit him, you won't take him down and he'll clobber you. And if he does go down, he might get right back up and come at you. And if he stays down, his people will come after you or he'll recover and then come after you. So what do? You leave him alone. Story 37. That if you see a bird or animal eating a berry, it means it's safe for you to eat. This can get you eliminate. Story 38. 3 feet of pine boughs compresses down to an amount that will keep you warm in an improvised shelter. At 40, take everything and anything. Story 39. A lot of the fighting stuff. I'd just gouge their eyes or bite them or punch them in the throat or kick them in the nuts, etc. Are things spouted by people who don't have any training in a legitimate martial art let alone had a single schoolyard scuffle when they were younger. It's just plain dangerous advice, doubly so, when that kind of crap is taught in slow-motion drills at self-defense classes, giving people false confidence. Story 40. Don't drink your own pee. Urine is waste, not water. It contains salts, toxins, and urea your body is trying to get rid of. Drinking it just dehydrates you faster, especially if you're already low on fluids. In hot conditions, it stresses your kidneys and can lead to organ failure sooner. It can also induce vomiting, making your situation worse. You may be able to drink first cycle, clear a pee once, but after that, or if you are already dangerously dehydrated, it will make your situation way worse. Story 41. Red before black. Venom lacks red before yellow. Eliminate a fellow. I learned this on a snake sub here, but I've always heard that rhyme when I was growing up about how to tell a venomous snake from a non-venomous snake. One is a coral snake, and I can't remember the other one, but they look very similar. But it's a terrible way to identify snakes, apparently. Story 42. Many people still think that if someone is bitten by a venomous snake, you should cut an X over the wound and try to suck or otherwise extract the venom. Do not do this. You're just making the problem worse. Make a compression bandage on the limb above the bite, ideally covering most of the limb. Do not make a tourniquet. Hydrate. Keep calm and keep the heart rate slow. Story 43. If you find a water source, remember, something else is using it too. Some you can eat, some can eat you. Story 44. Moss can grow on any side of a tree, but I remember growing up hearing it can only grow to the north. Story 45. Honestly, I don't think shouting fire instead of violation is a thing. Shouting violation if you're being violation is probably better, or just screaming anything at all. Story 46. Moss grows on the north side of trees. MF. I grew up in a forest. It grows all around the darn things. Story 47. Myth. Suck the venom out of a snake bite. Why it doesn't work. You can't suck fast enough. Venom spreads through the lymphatic system almost immediately, way quicker than your cowboy instincts can react. You'll likely make it worse. Cutting into the bite or sucking on it can damage tissue and introduce bacteria, which is a terrible bonus infection. Now, you're also in trouble. If you got a cut in your mouth, congratulations. Now you're both poisoned. What you should actually do: keep the person still and calm. Immobilize the bitten limb at or slightly below heart level. Get medical help immediately. If you know the species, let the hospital know. Story 48. It's a popular belief in England that if you fill your pockets with carrots, then it will deter badgers from attacking at nighttime. That's why most pajamas sold in England have pockets. What most people don't realize is that carrots do nothing to deter badgers. They should use beetroot instead. Story 49. You cannot outrun a bear by running downhill, or ever, and trying will just trigger it to attack you. Story 50. If you're lost in the desert, drink your own pee. Yeah, don't. That's a fast track to dehydration, not survival. Thanks, Bear Grylls. But I'll take my chances with the cactus water, which, spoiler alert, is also a terrible idea. Story 51. 1. Don't drink your pee. It'll dehydrate you more. 2. Do not pee on jellyfish stings. It doesn't help. Basically, pee has no use in a survival situation. Excrete it, but don't use it. Story 52. Standing in a doorway during an earthquake. This is a myth. What you should actually do is get under the sturdiest object, table, desk, etc., and hold onto a leg in case it starts to move away from you. Story 53. You aren't going to live off of an Altoids tin worth of trinkets. The tin is a tertiary backup. The first is your actual gear: tent, pot, food, clothes. The second is spares of the first: tarp, mylar, blanket, cup, granola bars, clothes you have on. The tin is just to supplement anything you lost from the first two. If you lost everything but the tin, you are in deep trouble if you cannot fashion tools. Addendum. The tin also can be updated with modernized equipment. Swap the birthday candle out. Use a bright color crayon. It will burn just like wax but can also trail mark. Add a GPS watch. You can get one for cheap these days. Print a map of the area you're going to. Carrying blank paper is silly. An A4 sheet with map on one side, blank on the other is better. Story 54. A lot of the stuff you see Bear Grylls do. The first rule to survival is to not place yourself into further danger, yet this idiot jumps off every cliff into water that he can without knowing how deep it is or if there are underwater obstacles. Story 55. Sucking the venom out of a snake bite. Congrats. Now you have two problems, and one of them is in your mouth. Story 56. If ever stuck in an elevator, do not attempt to climb out. Cell service will typically work in older elevators due to the fact the cab is made of wood. Newer elevators are made of steel. Climbing out is dangerous. The elevator could start moving without any moment during your escape. The elevator is built to keep the passenger safe inside the cab. When you exit the cab, either on top or prying the door open, you may be entangled in a number of things. Even if you did get on top, you have to make to the next floor. This is the most dangerous part if the car moves. Elevator techs have died, entangled between the car and the side of the hoistway. Most elevators have a phone to use that is answered 24 hours a day. Ask the dispatcher how long it will be for the technician will arrive. If this is during business hours, a technician could be close by. If you can't wait, ask that they call the fire department. You could also call if you have cell service. The fire department may be able to get you out without destroying doors and other things. If they can't get you out and know a tech is on the way, they will wait sometimes, especially if you are fine. In conclusion, the design of the elevator is to keep you safe inside. It would rather get you stuck than hurt. The car will not fall or run out of air. If you know someone is coming, sit down, away from the can lights, and relax. When the tech arrives, he will safely get you out. Story 57. Bears will not leave you alone if you do the Macarena in front of them. I haven't yet tried it on lions, though. Story 58. Do not attempt to suck out snake venom from a bite. All you will do is introduce a ton of bacteria to the wound, which may not even be envenomated in the first place. Just try to remain calm and get help. Story 59. Pretty much every survival video on YouTube where the guy or gal builds a mansion in the middle of nowhere. If that is their version of survival shelter, everyone is going to be in for a very disappointing reality. Story 60. Do not suck out snakebite venom or cut an X into the skin. I had to stop my friends from doing this when one of them got bit while we were sneaking out and ended up sitting him on his porch and ding-dong ditching because he was being stupid and said he could sleep it off. Story 61. Peeing on a jellyfish sting urine, especially diluted urine, can cause more nematocysts, stinging cells, to fire, increasing the pain and potentially worsening the injury. Story 62. Just follow water streams, arroyos, etc. Generally, this will get you to a road civilization, etc. But not always, and in some areas, it'll get you into trouble. Story 63. Take the following with a grain of salt. I read about it, but it's been years ago and I didn't look it up again. Drinking alcohol to protect yourself against cold. You think, nah, I wouldn't get tipsy when freezing. But you probably have seen the seals with whiskey barrels in comics and such. Well, if you are really cold, your blood flow will be limited to protect the warm blood from the cold extremities that are not required to survive. When you drink adult beverage that leads to the system opening up again, flooding the heart with cold blood from your extremities, which isn't good and can lead to you dying. Story 64. Moss grows on the north side of trees. Come out to the Pacific Northwest. Moss grows everywhere, including on you if you sit still for more than 20 minutes. Story 65. If you are very well hydrated, your urine is basically entirely water, and you can drink it to stay hydrated. Or at least, this is what I read in an interview with Bear Grylls. If you're walking in the sun all day and then get lost, then this doesn't work. But if you're driving through the desert very well hydrated, and then suddenly your car breaks down, your first piss might actually be worth saving and drinking if you're there a long time. Story 66. The shape of a snake's eyes does not mean whether or not it's venomous. It means whether it's nocturnal or diurnal. Story 67. You really shouldn't drink your pee. Not only is it not sterile, but it has salts and things your body is trying to get rid of. Drinking your pee will just put those things right back in your body, and then you will be even worse off from a dehydration standpoint. Story 68. Crouching down during storms to protect yourself from lightning. Research has shown it makes no difference at all. Story 69. Conserve your water so it lasts longer. You will still die from dehydration, so drink when you're thirsty. Story 70. Filtering dirty water through layers of gravel, sand, and charcoal makes it drinkable. Yes, the water looks a lot cleaner, but there's still enough bacteria in it to make you ill. Boil your water before you drink it. Story 71. Do not get under an overpass during a tornado. Do not get under an overpass during a tornado. The overpass becomes a wind tunnel. You're better off getting in a ditch on the side of the road and hunkering down, ideally with something stiff on top of you, than seeking shelter under an overpass, which, again, I cannot stress this enough, becomes a wind tunnel that hurtles objects at you or sucks you out to become a hurtling object. Story 72. Drink adult beverage to stay warm. It may make you feel warmer, but it won't actually make you warmer. This can be dangerous as you need to actually keep your core temperature and extremities adequately warmed. Story 73. Mushrooms. Don't try eating them even if you think you can identify a safe species. The risk-reward ratio is just too high for what is relatively few calories. Story 74. Do not park under overpasses in storms. The tornado will eliminate you even quicker, and now everyone has the pleas of being unable to escape behind you. Story 75. The movie's TV often showed people sinking in quicksand. Quicksand is mostly water and sand. If you stay still, you will float. Story 76. Bears. If it's black, fight back. If it's brown, lie down. If it's white, good night. You should be taking preventive action to avoid an attack, but if it is unavoidable. The truth about it is trying to quickly figure out if it is a defensive attack or predatory. A defensive example being a bear with cubs. The bear likely isn't trying to eat you. So if you were to lie down, there is a chance it'll leave you alone, but even some defensive attacks can turn predatory. Predatory example, a bear has been stalking you but hasn't made a move until right now. It is very likely predatory. There are stories of people having attempted the lie-down method only to be preyed upon in that moment. Story 77. Owning a gun, thinking you'll have access to it calmly in the event you're being threatened. In reality, you have no idea how your brain and body will react in unknown circumstances. Story 78. Find water and follow it to civilization. This in and of itself may or may not be good advice. It really depends on where you are. Water could lead you to civilization, or it could lead you to a waterfall, other hazardous body of water further into the wilderness. More importantly, though, you also need to be careful about following sound when you're in nature, especially the sound of water. Sounds can be very deceptive in the wilderness. You might think you're walking towards a body of water, but really what you're hearing is the sound of wind in the trees or echoes. Story 79. Moss only grows on the north side towards society. No, moss is a plant. It grows wherever it wants. It's just how moss do. Story 80. Where are my other Floridians? Running zigzag to escape an alligator. This will not work. Run in a straight line as fast as you can. Also, alligators do not chase people on land as much as lore would have you believe. Story 81. All the just do ABC when this obscure thing happens. Cup elbow for air pocket when falling down Niagara Falls. Story 82. I always think about the rule about jellyfish stings and how you're supposed to urinate on them. Don't do that. Or sucking out snake venom. Don't do that either. It actually makes it worse. And unless you're able to suck a baseball through a garden hose, you're not getting the venom out. Story 83. Suck the venom out of a snake bite. Nope. All you're doing is giving yourself venom breath and wasting time. Call 911. Don't become a National Geographic blooper reel. Story 84. Sucking out snake venom. When a snake bites you, the